So our player is actually able to grapple on pretty much everything in our scene. We can grapple on all the walls. If we were to go into our level 1, where's my scenes folder? There it is. If we were to go into level 1, like every single thing in this is able to be grappled to. And that's not necessarily a bad thing if we account for that when we design our levels, but sometimes we want to put our player in a tight space where they can't grapple anything. And so I'm going to show you guys how to do that. So we can really do this with any object in our game, but we're going to pick one, and then I'll show you how to change any object to follow the same rules. Now keep in mind, any object that you change to follow the rules, you may also have to add the custom material, but we'll get to that in a second. So we're going to go to our prefabs folder, or actually I'm going to go back to my test scene, and I would recommend you do that as well. And then we'll go to our prefab folder, go to structures and walls, and I'm going to create a folder in here and call it AntiGrapple. There we go. Now we'll select this object that says wall plane and hit Control D, and that's going to create wall plane 1. That's a duplicate of that wall plane prefab, and we're going to drag that into AntiGrapple. And then I'm going to right click this and rename it to AntiGrapple Wall. There we go. What we want to do now is click on, in this mesh renderer component in the inspector here, there's this walls material. We're going to click on that, and that's going to select our wall material. We're going to click on it here in the project panel, and again, press Control or Command D and duplicate that. That's going to give us a walls 1, and we'll rename that to walls AntiGrapple. And then if we go back to our AntiGrapple folder and get that prefab, we can click on the little circle here next to walls and type walls anti into that search bar there, walls anti, and that will pull up our AntiGrapple material. Then in this material component down at the bottom, we can hit this arrow to expand it, and we're going to give this a different color. So we want to give this a slightly different shade so that we can differentiate it from other normal walls. I'm going to give it a slight orange color, orangish red, to denote that it is kind of a bad thing. And then what we need to do is jump up into this layer section. If we click on this layer drop-down arrow, there's this add layer option at the bottom. We're going to click on that. And then in layer 9, we're going to type AntiGrapple. And then go back to our player prefab and select it. And then in the layer dropdown, now we'll see AntiGrapple appear. And if we select that, this wall is no longer on the default layer that our grappling hook searches for, and instead on a different layer, which means that the raycast we shoot to start grappling on something isn't going to make contact with this wall. And we can test that by dragging it out into our scene. If we hit play, and I can grapple on the floor just fine, but if I try to grapple on this wall, nothing happens. So that can be useful in level design, and you can kind of use it in any number of ways. You could basically cover the room with these if you wanted. You could make like a whole little hallway where you can't grapple on the walls. Really, you can use this any way that you see fit. So I encourage you to find creative ways to challenge your player by giving them surfaces they can't grapple to. That can help enhance the difficulty of any of your level designs. Just keep in mind that grapple prefab is here. And again, I wanted to show you how you could do this for any object. So anywhere in here, maybe you want to use one of these other walls, or you want to use one of these corridors or something. I recommend doing the whole process of creating a folder and calling it AntiGrapple. And then you can duplicate any prefab, put it on that AntiGrapple layer. If this pop-up does come up, you hit yes, change children, and then once you've done all that, you want to rename your duplicated one, so make sure it has the 1 at the end. Here's the, oops, get out of that. This one doesn't have the 1, but this one does. That's how you know it's the duplicate. You move it into your AntiGrapple folder, give it a name that just makes it clear, so we'll call this one like 4-way AntiGrapple, and then we can drag that out into the scene, and once again, we'll have to move our player here, but you'll see if I hit play that I am unable to grapple onto this this corridor here. I can still walk through it, but I can't grapple anything. I also can't jump on it, so that's another thing to keep in mind, is that anything that you make anti-grapple, you are not going to be able to jump on it. So I wouldn't recommend using it on floors, but if you want to use it on walls or ceilings, that's totally fine.